If you remember from last week, we are looking at a new Bible hero whose name is Gideon. Gideon lived in a difficult time in Israel's history, where they were being constantly raided and attacked by the evil Midianites. If you remember, Gideon was met by the angel of the Lord, who told Gideon that he was a mighty hero, who God had chosen to save Israel from the Midianites. Let's see what happens next.
Fat Cat and all of us here at Channel 7 wish our young viewers good night and sweet dreams.
Gideon?
Yes, my lord?
Just one more thing.
Yes, my lord?
In the middle of your town is that terrible big idol to the evil god Baal.
Oh, yeah, I know the one.
Go and destroy it and set up an altar to the Lord.
Yeah, sure thing, no worries.
Because Gideon was afraid of the townsfolk getting annoyed about him smashing up their idol, he went in the middle of the night to destroy it. The next morning, the townsfolk were very angry at Gideon. They said that he must die for breaking their idol to Baal. Gideon's father, Joash, gave them a call and defended Gideon and saved him from their angry outburst.
Are you answering on Baal's behalf? If Baal is a real god, he can defend himself. Leave Gideon alone.
So the townsfolk relented and did not hurt Gideon for breaking down their altar to Baal and replacing it with an altar to the Lord. You go, Gideon. Well, there you have it. I'm glad Gideon's dad made that phone call and saved Gideon from those angry townsfolk. How about that? Goody gumdrops. Well, I'd like to dive in a little at the whole idol thing that went on with the Israelites and Gideon at that time. So Gideon smashed up, or Hulk smashed up, the idol to the evil god Baal. And the townsfolk were very, very angry, which showed that the Israelites were following someone who wasn't God, or they were putting their hopes and their desires and their effort into an evil god, a Canaanite god called Baal. And to follow Baal, you had to do some terribly evil practices or things to engage in that cult, if you like. So it was a terrible thing to do for Israel. They were really doing some very bad things and not following God. And I think when we look at idols like this or worshipping Baal, us highly educated people, look back in time and we're like, oh, there's terribly not smart people back then, bowing down to a lump of clay. We're so much smarter. And we may well be smarter in a lot of respects, I can acknowledge that. But I want to point out that we still have idols too. They might not be lumps of clay, but they're certainly things that take the place of God, or perhaps take us away from worshipping God or giving God the glory. So let me give you a couple examples, maybe 3 examples, in my life. Now, the first idol that I probably have, or it could be an idol, so this is a good thing, but it can sometimes be an idol if I focus on it too much and don't worship God or whatever. So my first idol is probably my illustrious beard. I mean, look at it. It's just beautiful. It's breathtaking. Morris Mead himself, shampoos this occasionally if I get some kind of gift voucher. But, I mean, probably every week I probably spend about $50 on this thing, shampoos, conditioners, essential oils, balms, things like that, getting it looking as good as this. But again, not necessarily a bad thing. But if I focus on my beard too much, it can get in the way of God and following God. I can start getting a bit obsessed with it, It can become an idol. Is looking after yourself and looking after your appearance a bad thing? No. Can it become an idol? Yes. Number 2 is probably my Nintendo Switch. Is there anything wrong with video games? No. But could I play too much video games that I neglect everything else in my life, including following God? Oh yes, of course. That can become an idol if I'm not careful. Lastly, and this is a tricky one, because it's always good for us to have very good grounded friends. But I'd like you to ask yourself the question sometimes if your friends could maybe lead you away from God sometimes. Would they tempt you to do the wrong thing? Do you have to stand up for yourself and God sometimes? Or are you idolizing your friends' approval of you? Do your friends' opinions of you mean more than God's opinion of you or what God wants you to do? So again, it's not wrong to have friends. God wants us to have great friends. But we also need to think about following God, and if our friends might get in the way of that, we might idolize them, as I said before. So that's pretty much it for this week. Take a step back on your life, look at your week, and see what you're valuing most. They're probably good things, but I'd like you to think about how you can follow God and keep Him number 1 this week, just like Gideon did in a pretty bold way in his town. I'll see you next week.
Gideon, my lad, God has chosen you to save Israel from the hand of the... I don't know what that word is.
Gideon! Gideon!
Yes, my lord?
Just one more thing.
Yes, my lord?
Gideon! Gideon!